So yeah, the session title, create a team member onboarding system in SharePoint 2010, no code needed. 2010 is the focus of this presentation. It's actually a two-part presentation this morning, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., then 10:15, I believe, to 11:15 a.m. The scenario being the team member onboarding system, like I said, but the intent really being to expose you to all different ways that exist in terms of managing your existing solution or creating a new solution end-to-end without using any code. So now I want to understand where you guys are coming from first, though. So tell me, please, if you can, how many of you have used SharePoint Designer 2010 already? Okay, seems like half of you. How about InfoPath 2010? Same half? Okay. All right. Well, some of the stuff might be the same stuff that you've already done before if you've used those products. This is about a 250 level presentation approximately. It's not too high, it's not too low. So I'm not going to be specifically talking about what those products do and the evolution of them, everything else. But I'll be starting right in the end of the beginning level, intermediate, somewhere like that. All right? Okay. Oh yeah, my name, by the way, is Asif Rehmani. I guess I should introduce myself first. I'm from Chicago, United States. Glad to be here. UK is a beautiful place. This is my, I think, third time here in my life, completely. Never been here before, not been here that long. I mean, not that many times. I'll spend a couple of minutes, one to introduce myself, one to introduce the company and what we do, and then I'll move on to the presentation. Is that fair? Okay, well, let's do that. So, once again, Asif Rehmani is my name. I'm a SharePoint MVP and also a Microsoft certified trainer. We run this site called SharePointVideos.com, which started back in 2005, very much focused on SharePoint videos. So basically support and education to the users using video tutorials. And then we also do training with critical path training as well at times. And that's my email address if you so care. This used to be our old site, SharePointElearning.com, so the email's still stuck. I got to make that shorter someday. And here's the Twitter ID. And I've been fortunate enough to do a few books here and there. So, back when I used to look like that, I did some books. I'm just kidding, that's not me. No. That's my buddy, that's another buddy. That's me right here, which I still don't look like anymore. My wife tells me, you look very different now, Asif. Anyway, the latest one is the first look for power users, SharePoint 2013. And if you stick around until the end, I'll do a raffle for that. I did bring a couple of copies of that book. It's a small book, nothing that big, but this was the first one that came out for SharePoint 2013. All right. So a minute also for our products over here. We have one product called Visual SP, and that's specific to providing a help tab in the ribbon for your users. So being able to expose any assets like videos, like documents or images, whatever you wanted to for your users in context and on demand through the help tab. And that's what we do. We won an award last year as well on Windows IT Pro for that. If you need any more information on that, let me know. And it is SharePoint 2013 compatible. And also we do lots of videos on all different topics on SharePoint. So SharePoint Designer, reporting services, branding, term store, you can read it over there. 460 plus videos so far. And we use multi-user licenses and also do single-user licensing on that. Okay? So any of these things that you have interest in, you let me know at the end. I will begin now talking about you first. So that's my assumption of the audience. First one being, you worked with SharePoint Designer and InfoPath before, so half of you have, great. Looking to see an end-to-end solution created without code, yeah? Anybody here likes code? Okay, good. I like code too, because there's many things that you cannot do without code, absolutely. But if you look at the Microsoft trajectory, where they're going right now, with Visual Studio also having very declarative type workflows in this version of SharePoint 2013 and all, and everything else, being completely, vision being that no code really exists on SharePoint box. Everything exists outside of the box. So Microsoft is saying code is good, but not on your SharePoint box. It's better to do it, offload it, or use the components that we've given you, and then create composites using SharePoint Designer, using InfoPath, using these kind of tools. Oh yeah, and the last one, you're willing to sit to the demo portions that you already know. So there might be some stuff that be like, I've done this before for the last couple of years and all, so if you're willing to sit through that, hopefully you'll get some good gems that you have not done before. I love to do demo. I live to do demo. I love to show and tell and to discuss. I'm not going to be doing as much PowerPoint. Hopefully you're not that disappointed in that. You okay with that? Okay. All right. Of course, all dependent on the network connection, how we're going to get the kind of quality we're going to get today. Okay, just to focus this presentation, awesome functionality developed without code, SharePoint 2010 based presentation upon request, but I am willing to talk about SharePoint 2013 and stuff as well. I talked to Steve, the organizer, about that before, and he's like, yeah, definitely want to talk about how some of these components can be built in SharePoint 2013 as well, right? What exists, what doesn't exist anymore. Okay. Very focused on the site owner and above. Site owner or a site collection administrator is the target audience for this kind of presentation. No programming background needed, no technical training really needed for these folks. They just need to be willing to learn. I call them the power users. They're the folks who this stuff is targeted to. The tools needed, I don't know if you can see from there, I hope so. It says over here, Internet Browser, SharePoint Designer, InfoPath, and Visio. Visio being Visio 2010 Premium, because that's what you need to create the workflow stuff in SharePoint. In the environment, SharePoint Server Enterprise is what I'm running using Forms services. All right? If all that sounds good to you, if that's what you were here to learn, then let's get started. If not, I would not be disappointed if you had to go to a different session. That's fine. You need to make most of your time. You're okay? All right, let's get started then. So this is a scenario, right? A team member onboarding process, not company onboarding. So when a person comes onto the team, basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be notifying the resource manager saying, hey, go ahead and give this person the equipment they need for their job, basically. Okay, that's the focus of this presentation. Now that's the actual workflow, the actual process, but leading up to it, there's other steps that happen, and then the actual workflow, I'm going to give you tips and tricks as to how you can create a workflow like that and how you can replicate some of the processes inside instead of having to recreate everything from scratch. So focus is on process really, not the product. Process is where I want to focus on, and I want you to ask questions as you are willing. Please do. I love questions. And then I'll just make up the answers as we go along. Just kidding. I'll try to answer them. If I don't, then you have my email address. Or if you don't, I can give it to you again. And I can try later. All right. So first thing. See, InfoPath itself is a pretty powerful application. As you know, the people who use InfoPath right now. We'll talk about the other things about the future and everything else of InfoPath later. We can definitely have a discussion on that. But let's focus on InfoPath 2010 at this point. What can you do with InfoPath? Can I ask you guys? Can somebody respond? What kind of forms can you create? What was that again? Lots of forms. That's true. You can make lots of forms with InfoPath. What kind of forms? Can I make forms that are for they get hosted in a library? Yes. So that's a forms library that gets hosted in there, right? Just like a document library is a document. List form is another one, and the third one is? What was it again? Workflow, you said? Yes, that's correct. So workflow forms are the third form that you can create. I'm going to be going through all the different forms over here. The first thing that I want to talk about is just a really easy, small list, resource managers list that we need. And the question here becomes, I need to modify the form, but do I modify it using SharePoint Designer or InfoPath? So I'm going to go through a quick scenario on that, and you see what it is. You let me know what you think is better. Okay, so why customize the form anyway? Well, because the forms that come out of the box are not as awesome. Okay, they're good, but there's never enough. What did I do? I don't know what I did, but I didn't like that. Okay, so they're just never enough. Sometimes you want to hide a field. Sometimes you want to make something required. Sometimes you want to maybe even make a connection outside somewhere and put something into that form. Anything that you want to do to that form or to those forms that come out of the box, you can do. Now the question is, which product do you use to make the modification? SharePoint Designer, which has been the product, or InfoPath, right? There's some functionality differences. There's some licensing requirements differences. So I'll go and show you some of that stuff, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, let's see if my demo machine is still running. It seems like it is. Awesome. All right, so I got this site running called Evolutions for this conference, and I made a resource managers list initially. There's nothing that's exciting about this list so far. It's just It's got region, and it's got departments, and it's got resource managers. That's all it has so far. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah. Okay. These are coming from the user profile database, I believe. I'm pretty sure. And this, yeah, it is coming from the user profile database. You got departments and you got region. Of course, each region has multiple departments. That's why it says Midwest this, Midwest this. And that's, I'm basing this on the US, Midwest, East. I hope you don't mind. That's where I'm from, and that's what I had made before. Okay, so my focus right now is to make a form that lets me do or interface with that list, right? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go to SharePoint Designer, go to, actually, here we go, File. Why is it doing that? Hang on a second. That's weird. When I flip over, does this? Okay, I shouldn't flip over then. Let's just go like that. Okay, Resource Manager, Resource Managers list, and here's the Customize Form button that let me customize this form using InfoPath, right? But that's the second scenario. First scenario that I want to do is Site Actions, Edit in SharePoint Designer, which will open up this site in SharePoint Designer and let me modify this form. So let's do that first. Always takes a second for it to come up. Okay, cool. So within lists and libraries, I have the resource managers list right here. And here's the different views, here's the different forms. If I want to make a new form, what do? I click on New to make a new form. I want to make an edit form. This is going to be edit. It's going to be edit. Okay. Come on, buddy. So, small technical difficulty, I can't type in there. I can click, but I can't type. That's, oh, here we go. Whew. Otherwise, I would have to say goodbye to you, if I couldn't type in there. That would not have been good. Okay, so it made the form, but that's not the right kind of form that I wanted to make. All right. Okay, never mind. Just leave that there. So this is going to be edit managers. Edit item form. Okay. You know what? Hang on a second. I'm tripping all over myself over here. I'm using a keyboard that's not my used to either. I'm borrowing somebody else's laptop. Very sorry. Oh, come on. Go away. All right, one more time. Sorry about that. Edit managers. Edit. So that's just, okay, so I want to make this a default form. Okay, go inside of it. Okay, I think I finally got it here. Let's close this stuff up. So here's what it looks like by default, right? You got title, you got region, you got department, you got resource manager. Easy enough. Looks like a very plain vanilla kind of form to start with, which it is, of course. What I do not want in this form is the title row right now. So I'm going to go to the title row, say right click, delete, and delete row. Okay, the reason, of course, I don't want it is because I'm not even using it. I'm not even showing that over here. There's no title. And currently, if I go to one of these, go to edit item, what happens? It shows me the title. I don't want the title. All right, let's get rid of it. It is true. It's a required field. So what do? I just made it not required. So yeah, but it is a required field otherwise. But I just made it not required because I don't really care for it. All right, so I did that. I'm going to save this thing. Hopefully it saves nicely. Go back to Resource Managers. Let me refresh this page. Retry, yes. And then edit item. Title is gone, right? Easy enough. Title is gone from here. If you click on add new item, title is still there. So that's a very simple scenario. Of course, if you wanted to get rid of a field, if you want to make something, change some shading or something like that, you can do that. Which let me do that quickly here as well. If I'll go here and then go to table, change the shading to be this nice pink shading. No, that's not really cool. Let's make it like that. Home, bold. Okay, simple enough. Let's save this thing. Go back out. Now let me refresh that one more time. Yes. Edit item. Okay, simple enough, right? What if I want to make a field required? What if I want to have a specific expression that I wanted to validate against? So if it's a phone number or if it's an email address, something like that, right? What if I want one field to not have something that's different from a second field? So if there's an email and there's a confirm email, they should be similar or should be exactly the same actually, right? How do you do those kinds of things in SharePoint Designer? And we're in the forms over here. Anybody done that before? Any of these things? Required, no, expression validation, yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, actually, yeah. Well, if you do it that way, then it is for all lists that are based on that content type. However, I'm not doing that. Currently, if you just wanted to see, all I did was I went to the list settings, title, and I made that not required over here. So I'm just doing that for this specific list. But if you did do this for the content type and the content type is being utilized in multiple lists, which it is, then you are doing it for all lists. Exactly. Yeah, but then of course, every time you make a custom list, it gives you that title anyway, so you would make a new special custom list that would be your custom list. That you could do that, yeah. Okay, now staying on task over here, here's what I'm going to do. So I just showed you some simple scenario for SharePoint Designer, and I asked the question as to how do you change things over here where you make something here, for example, region's got to be required value, department's got to be required value. Maybe there's an email, a confirm email, they have to be similar, or they have to be exactly the same, of course. How do you do all that stuff in SharePoint Designer? Anybody know? Yeah?
You could do it in the field itself. You could say it's
Okay.
you have to fill it in, or you can go to the content type.
So you go to the properties of the field, basically. So you go right click, maybe go to properties here, and the properties comes up over here, and then within over here, this is as far as a site owner is going to come before they say, whoa, this is not me anymore, this is a developer. This looks like that thing that they use called Visual Studio for their coding and all that stuff. Like, oh, I don't know what to do over here. Alternate template, CSS class? Well, okay. Now, a designer might go a little bit further because they understand some CSS and stuff like that, but still, there's a certain portion where they're going to say, all right, this is not me anymore. Okay, I'm done. Now, because my focus is on those people, the information worker, this is the information worker track, right? My focus is on information workers. My focus is on site owners and above, in that hierarchy. They will usually not go further than this thing over here. So the alternative is to turn to InfoPath for some of these things. You go to Resource Managers List again, List tab, and you click on Customize Form. See what we get over here. And that's what we get. Right away, it opens up in InfoPath. So let's talk a little bit about licensing right now. We'll talk more about licensing at the end as well. For this functionality to work, you need client license of InfoPath, at least one client license of InfoPath, right? And the second thing you need is SharePoint Server Enterprise, because form services is a required component that you need to be able to serve these kinds of forms on the server. All right, title, I don't need title once again, so let's go ahead and delete that thing. Easy enough over here, delete row, done. Take this stuff, go to bold, great, that's easy enough, okay. Let's make this, what do you want to do with this thing? I'm going to make that shaded. Great. Now I want to make something required, region required. You know how you do that? Just like that, right? You want to make something that cannot be blank or require same thing, right? Just like that. You want to make something read-only, just like that. It's just so easy to make these modifications and then just simply push it out, right? So let's say if I did do that, cannot be blank. This is fine. So you know what I'm doing right now if I did that, right? It's actually changing the list property. I'm sorry, the actual list item property for the list. There is a drawback of using list forms. The drawback being that you get a flat schema that you cannot change. This is all a flat schema. It's not a hierarchical schema like the form library forms get. That's the drawback. But the good thing about using list forms is you do get everything that's list-based. Microsoft also recommends that you use the list-based forms before you jump to the form library forms, which is how we've done things for since 2003 in InfoPath. There are some other restrictions as well in list forms. One thing is you can't use digital signatures. I don't know if anybody used digital signatures in InfoPath. But if you've used digital signatures to sign sections of the form, things like that, you cannot do that in list forms. You have to go to form library forms for that, okay? And like I said, the other thing is this is you get a flat schema with this one, but the other one you get a hierarchical schema that you can manipulate further. And of course, that is all XML based. So you can take another XML application, you can go ahead and dive into the XML text of the actual form, whatever's been filled out, and pull things out from there. Anyway, let me go ahead and maybe just leave this, cannot be blank, and this one is this, and just push this out. Now I won't be touching on small things here and there and do things like that. I won't be diving in too deep in these things. Deeper we're going to go in the other one. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so now let's see. I published it, refresh, add new item. Okay, here we go. And you sure you want to show this? Yeah. Oh, sorry. I said yeah. Yes. Okay. Edit item. This is also that form. Okay. Close. Yes, close it. And then display is also the same form. So all forms got replaced with InfoPath. You saw that, right? The new form, the edit form, the view form. Now, this is good actually, because everything got replaced at one time, and maybe that's the kind of form we need to use for all different purposes: the viewing of an item, the editing of an item, and the new item. But what if you didn't? What if you say that, you know what, when somebody enters it in the beginning, I want the region to be shown. When they're editing the actual form, I don't want the region to be editable, or I don't want it to be shown at all. And then when they're viewing it, I want this to have a completely different design, so they can see it in a very different manner. How would you do that? Anybody done that before? The different views. Awesome. Okay. So, just like the lady said over here, because she has done it, awesome. I'm going to show you how you can do that. Pretty simple, actually, once you get used to it. Here's the deal. When you go to the list settings over here, this button right here, which is a bigger button if it's a bigger ribbon, if I don't have a bigger ribbon, it says Modify Form Web Parts. In here, the new item form, the display form, and the edit form are going off of specific views of the InfoPath form. So if you had multiple views of the InfoPath form, you can go ahead and tag it, you can go ahead and pair it up with different form types here. Here's what I mean by that. So if I go to InfoPath again, page design, there's this view, edit item view, right? Well, let's make a new view. New view here is going to be new. Why does keep on doing this to me? Okay. Maybe I'll just stay in here and not change it. Okay, here we go. That's the the fix for that. Oh, okay. Delete this, please. Yes. New view. New item. All right, here we go. New item. And this is what new item view looks like right now. All right, that's fine. New view, and this is going to be display item. All right. Display item. All right. So what do you do if you want to just take some of the stuff from there and bring it here? You go to edit item. You just take all this good stuff over here. So Control A, Control C. So I copied everything from here. I can go to display over here and then do Control A, Control V. Boom, just like that. Go to new, Control A, Control V. So now you have the same start in all different forms. Now you can manipulate it the way you want it to manipulate it, right? Now I will not waste too much of your time manipulating it exactly the way I want it to look, but I just want to have you see it when it does come up, which form it is. So we'll just name this new item, which it is. Maybe use this different color as well. New item, we'll use this purple here. Okay, why not? I'm getting used to purple now that I have a daughter. Before I had just sons, and purple was like a no-no color. Okay, display item. Display item form. This is going to be, let's make it yucky yellow. That's what my son would call it. And edit item. That's going to be the edit item form. All right. And we'll take this, change that to this over here. Okay, perfect. Republishing it just means just Clicking on this republish button goes ahead and pushes it where it came from. Done. Going back to the resource managers list now. Don't even need to refresh, but I'll do it for good measure anyway. Add new item. Oh, it still says edit item. What happened? I thought I just needed to make new views. You're just smiling at me like, you know what you're doing. Come on. Okay. So yes, I think I do know what I'm doing. And here's what I'm doing. You need to go to this list tab, go to the form web parts, go to new form here. And then within here, right now it's going to the edit item web part basically, which is showing the view, the edit item view of that form. So you go ahead and you edit this web part and you say that instead of showing the edit item view, show the new item view. Okay, and stop editing, that's good. Same deal again. Now these are scenarios that I come across personally a lot of times, so hopefully you get something out of this as well. Edit web part, and that's going to be the display item web part. Yep. Stop editing. Let's check it out. Display is going to be view item, display item. Yep. And add new item, add new item. Okay, and the other one remains the same. Okay, so that's in a nutshell how you can take the form, InfoPath form specifically, use that to your advantage for list form specific functionality. I'll be talking about more form library forms and workflow forms as well. Just wanted to give you a taste of this thing so far, and just this tip basically. Now I have to go back to the desktop, so hopefully this will accept my input when I come back. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff hopefully that's been helpful to me when somebody provides this to me as to why do I need SharePoint Designer or InfoPath? I mean, why do I need either or to do the list form modification? Well, in SharePoint Designer, you don't need any special licensing. That's the big thing, right? You can use that with SharePoint Foundation. You don't need SharePoint Server. And SharePoint Designer is free since April 2nd, 2009, if I remember correctly. I should remember that day when Microsoft decided, no, we're not going to do it on April 1st because people will think we're joking, so we're going to April 2nd is going to be the day where we're going to make sure everybody knows that SharePoint Designer is free to download. Because, some of these SharePoint Server administrators still said, are you joking? Even when it first came out on April 2nd, like, what are you talking about? I don't want everybody to be using this product. Only the people who are trained. Anyway, so SharePoint Designer, it is a difficult interface for information workers when you go into properties, when you go into, so the required fields, by the way, you would have used to use required validators. You would have to use required validators. There's also expression validators. There's lots of things like that, which for the information workers, it's like mumbo jumbo kind of stuff. They don't want to use that. Yeah, it's challenging to do simple things. Fetching data from a variety of sources, you can do that in SharePoint Designer. Once again, once you do fetch the data, how do you incorporate that into your form? That's the difficult part. While InfoPath, while it does require money, because it doesn't come free, for the designer, you just need one InfoPath designer to design the form. You need form services on the SharePoint Server Enterprise to serve up the form, any kind of form really. It is easy to work with interface, of course, very much like Microsoft Word. That's been the intention since the beginning. You can use conditional formatting, which I'll show you later, and you can easily fetch data from a variety of different sources as well. True? Any questions or any thoughts about that? Yeah.
Can you auto-populate fields in SharePoint Designer?
Can you auto-populate fields in SharePoint Designer?
So
Yes.
Fetch
Yeah.
my manager?
Actually, I'm going to be showing you that in InfoPath, but your question is,
Info, but I know.
yeah. Your question is, can you do it in SharePoint Designer? You can do it in SharePoint Designer. You can. But at least the way that I've done it has been you have to go into the code to make some of these things happen. You have to either call the stored procedure or call the web service and bring it back and then hook it up, bind it basically to the right property. So I have not been able to do it without code personally. I'm not saying that there is no way. There might be, but I don't think so. Okay? All right. Moving on. Onboarding form. So now we talked about the list form. We're going to talk about the actual form library form that a person has to fill out when they come into a team, when they join a team, okay? So let's do that. Actually, I think I have a couple more slides here. Let me do this here first. So the form is going to look like this, something similar to that. It's going to have a person group picker, it's going to have a region, it's going to have a department. It's going to have today's date, start date, and email address. It's a pretty simple form. They have to fill out a bio form basically, and then everything else happens automatically after that. Yep. Like I said, I'm very much on demo, not as big on slides. So, maybe I should check if I can still type. Okay, yes, I can. Awesome. Go away. All right. So now we're talking about InfoPath form, and this one I just have a starter form right here that I'm going to start with. It's called the team member onboarding. So right-click, design. Brings up this completely empty form. So I've not really done much with it. I've just started making the header for it, saying that, hey, thanks for joining. Welcome to our team. Welcome to our company, I should say. And then you know what? You'll be joining a team. If you have any questions, talk to the onboarding coordinator. All you got to do is fill out whatever information you know so far, which is your name, your region, department, today's date, start date, and email address. Start date being the start of employment or starting on the team. All right, I'm going to go to name, and here's all my different widgets that I can create, right? I'm going to go ahead and put the text box here. Oh, that's not what I want. I don't want a text box. So I'm going to delete this thing, right? I didn't really delete it, did I? What's the problem so far that you see?
Just deleted it from the form because the column is already here.
Yeah, that's the actual field. That's just a rendering of that field. So the reason I did this, by the way, is to also remind you that you will see these kind of forms, or maybe you made these kind of forms, which have field 1 to field 1567, when you only have 5 fields over here, because you went that, I don't want that, I don't want that. And you're deleting all this stuff over here, but all that stuff is not getting deleted, right? That's the actual data that's being stored in the form, and that's the rendering of that data. In fact, you can render the same data in a different variety of ways as well. It could be a text box, it could be a drop-down, it could be something else. You can render it whatever way you want over here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this thing. Okay, then I'll go about and make a quick form. Let's see if I can make it quickly. So this is going to be a person group picker. That's what I want. This is going to be a text box. No, that's not text box, a drop-down list. Yeah, it's the best one for that. A drop-down list for this one also. Today's date is going to be the date picker. Start date is going to be a date picker. Email address is going to be a text box, okay? First here, I'm going to go, and now I can change the names here, but it's best practice is wise to double click on this thing and change the name here. Just because now you know for sure you're changing the actual field. So here is going to be employee name. That's good. Here's going to be region. Good. Here's going to be department. Just bear with me a little bit. Today's date. You know I can't have spaces in between the words, right? That's not allowed. So I'm using what's called Pascal notation. The first letter of each word is capitalized. And what was the last thing? Email. Yes, thank you. All right. Here we go. Now let's have the fun. Let the fun start now. So, what do I want in my employee name, first of all? Whenever somebody is filling out a form, chances are very, very high that they want their own form to be filled out, right? Not somebody else's. So how about putting it in automatically? There's a couple of different ways of putting it in automatically. One, which is a little bit harder way, but it gives you a lot more information as well, is call the user profile service. Call user profile service, which is a web service. You call that, it's called user profile service.asmx. You call that, you bring all the information in, you have the whole information about who the person is, their display name, their username, their manager, the color of their hair. No, not that. Just kidding about that. Most of the things you do have. The other thing, which is an easier thing, if you just want the username to be displayed, is you do this. You go to account ID and display name, and you make sure the default value of each of these things is pointed to the username property. So you double click on this thing, your default value, fx, insert function, and here's the function right here. Username, returns the username of the person filling out the form. Simple enough. It's available InfoPath 2007 and above. So I'll put that in there. Great. For account ID, once again, I'm going to put that in there, insert function, username, and that's just the functions that are most recently used. There's, of course, many more. Username is what I want. Okay, done. All right, let's move on to region. Now, as you recall, and this is the reason I made that other list, is I have the information about regions, information about departments in that list, right? But we'll have some fun with that as well. So we got region here, we got department here, resource managers here. This one right here. Okay, so double click on the region, which gives me access to the ribbon, control tools properties, edit choices. Yep, that's what I want. External data source, that's what it is. It could be SharePoint list, it could be library, it could be SharePoint SQL database, it could be even Oracle, it could be whatever you want it to go to. I'm going to go ahead and say add a data source, receive data, that's right. Get information, here we go, all different sources. SharePoint library or list. The list is going to be this list right here. So I'll just copy the whole thing. That's fine. Go back here, put that in there, Control V. Okay, so automatically it picks resource managers, that's what I want. Next, region and department. I'm bringing back both of those things, and there's a reason I'm bringing back both of those things. I need that connection for something else later. Next, no, I don't need that. Next, resource managers is the name of the connection, that's fine. Finish. All right, now, I'm going to leave it just like that right now and see what happens, right? So home, preview. What do you think, good? Sure? Okay, so it's good that it brought it back, but you know, it's bringing back the same thing again and again because that's how the list is constructed, of course, right? That's what you got over there. So well, I just want to bring it once. I don't want to have the same exact region being brought 3 times, or being shown 3 times, I should say. So I'm going to go back to my InfoPath form. This is a simple enough fix. You go to Edit Choices, and you click on this. Show only entries with unique display names. Okay, simple enough, right? Click OK, just test it out quickly. Home, preview. All right, whew, much better. All right, let's close the preview. Now, department. Well, the departments are in the same list, so I can use the same connection, right? Control tools, properties, edit choices. Get yours from external data source. Department is what I'm looking for. That is correct. Department is what I'm looking for. That's correct. For the value and display name. But there's going to be a problem right now, right? I mean, that's not a problem, I shouldn't say. Let's try this first like that. Here, home, preview. Okay, so all departments are being shown, which is a good thing. But the user is going to expect that if I choose Midwest, I should be able to choose only Midwest-specific departments. Same thing for East, same thing for South. Don't you think so? It would be nice like that. So what do you use for that? Cascading drop-downs. Let's do that. Department, control tools properties, edit choices. Now, for the entries here, I'm going to do some filtering of data. So I'll click on this button and say that filter data here, add a new filter, and the filter is going to say that in the main connection, by the way, there's a difference between the main connection and the secondary. The main connection refers to the actual form itself. The secondary connection, this one, it refers to, excuse me, it refers to that list that is bringing back the information, right? So in the main connection, the region, which is this field right here, should be equal to secondary connection region right there. Okay, and if that is true, just bring back the specific information about that or department about for that region. Let's see how that comes about. Aha. See that? Midwest, East, there we go. And South, so pretty easy to do, right? Once you get used to it, it's pretty easy to do. That filtering, by the way, that I showed you, I just gave you a taste of what that thing is. But you can filter and filter and filter from filter and filter. You can go as far as you want to get that information and related information from any source. Because think about it, right now my sources are the same. My sources are the exact same list, department, region, the same exact list. But what if it wasn't? What if my departments were in SQL database, but my regions were somewhere else altogether that I'm getting through a web service from my partner institution or something like that, and they do correlate somehow. That I know the actual field that it correlates on, but the data sources are very different. Same exact functionality. As long as you have data sources connected properly and you know exactly which field it fits on, make the join and you're done. Okay, so that's good for that. Today's date. Let's learn something about today's date as well. And so the simple thing over here is say, well, I want to go today's date over here and click on default value function, insert function. That's good, today, great. The question comes in sometimes, people ask that, oh, well, you know, when I look at this form and it shows me today's date, anybody can go and change the date to be some other date. Oh yeah, I filled it out on the 3rd. Asif, what are you talking about? Because no, they could do that, right? They can go ahead and fill out the form on today, but backdate it. Well, we don't want them to do that. Well, then it's simple enough, people say, you know, because any other field, if you go there and you can say make it read only, not the date field. If you go to date field and you say read only, it's not available. Not available. So this is where you use rules. They come to rescue over here. You say today's date, manage rule. Let's make a new rule, and it's going to be a formatting rule of all things. It's you know, you would think it's a validation rule, but it's actually a formatting rule. And the reason for that, when you go to formatting, there's an option to disable this control if a certain specific condition is true. Condition here is going to be if today's date is not blank. Well, when is it not going to be blank? Always, right? Because it fills it up automatically. And then when that happens, disable this control. Simple enough. Let's check it out. So, can't do it. Can't change anything anymore. All right. Next one, start date. This should be simple. We'll go to start date, go to manage rule. I'm sorry, home. Yeah, where am I over here? Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Okay, manage rule, new. It's going to be a validation rule here. Condition here is going to be start date is less than, if it's less than, and today's date, then it's wrong, there's a problem, and the screen tip of the problem is going to be start date cannot be in the past. You must put a screen tip in there, that's required. For email address, we're going to put in a new validation rule. And the condition for email is going to be if email is not or does not equal a certain pattern, then there's a problem. And the pattern is going to be the email pattern. Okay? This email pattern did not exist in 2007. InfoPath 2007, if you came over here, you did not see email. You know what you guys did then at that time? You make up your own or you find one. There's a couple different patterns out there. I made one too at that time. This seems to work a little bit better. So, yeah. Yes, if you had the user profile service information, if you made that connection, then you can go ahead and use action rules, basically, to say if this is populated, boom, click on an action, throw an action, and then go ahead and populate it. Absolutely. Okay. So the email is not valid, is what I want to put here. That's good. Okay, so all that stuff is good, I believe. Done for that. Now, file. Form options. Within form options, I want to make sure that specific properties get promoted. They become columns in my library. So I'll add a few items. I'll add account ID. I need that. I'll add display name. And all these fields, as I was mentioning before, they're going to become columns in my library when I push this out, right? If you have not used it before. Good to know. Also, notice that it puts a space in between automatically. That's automatic if you use a Pascal notation, capital each letter, first letter of each word. And email address, so you got everything available. Great. That's done. Let me go ahead and push it out. File, publish, SharePoint server, email, network location. I'm not going to go through all the different options right now. We're going to go push it out to SharePoint server. The location for this is going to be my evolution site. So I'll take this, copy it, go back to InfoPath, and then paste it in here. That's where I want to publish my form. Now, 3 different choices: form library, site content type, administrator, approved form template. Usually I use this for an easy one, but I'm going to use this one right now because that's in real world that you want to utilize the content type as much as possible, of course, right? You encompass it within a content type. the main thing that you have to remember is that when you encompass a form within a content type, the form itself, the form template itself has to live somewhere. Okay, and that somewhere usually is that site. It could be outside that site, but it's usually in that site. So you got to have a library where the form template is going to reside. Here's what I mean by that. When I click on next, it says, first of all, you want to make a new content type? I do want to make a new content type. That's correct. The form, this I had said earlier, so it's still there. Onboarding form is a content type name. Here's the content type description. Now, specify a location and a file name for the form template that you are creating right now. Okay, so I'm going to browse. On my same site, I have made a library. It's a completely empty library, unless I filled it up before. Let me see. Yeah, there's nothing in there. This is a form library. Okay, so when you make a new library, you have choices between picture library, form library, document library, translation management library, and other libraries. So this is a form library, completely blank right now. I'm going to use InfoPath to navigate here. Form templates, that's correct. One tricky thing after you navigate, come on, is you got to give it a file name here. You have to decide on something. You can't just say save here. So onboarding form, that's fine. .xsn. XSN is the template extension. Save. So there we go. Great. Next. That's all the stuff that I had pre-populated before. And publish. Should do it. So it makes a new content type. It takes the form that I provided it makes it into the actual template for the content type. It also takes the fields and stuff like that and make them columns, site columns really, in the site. Does all that stuff for me. I can click on close over here. Let's do that. Go to File, Form Templates, refresh over here, and my form template should be here. There we go. Okay, so what's next? Well, I need to go ahead and go to the form library, and which is go to a form library, which I don't have yet, and then go ahead and use that content type that I just made in that form library. So once again, by the way, this is where some of my students, when I teach classes, they get confused a little bit. What do you mean? You already made a form library. Yeah, but this is a form library to contain the templates of my content types. The other form library is going to be where the users will go to fill out a form. That's the difference over here. So that's just for my templates. I want to make a new library. Go into my Evolution site. This is where I want to make my library. So I'll go to Listen Libraries, refresh, make sure I got everything else from before. Document library, form library, that's what I want. And that's going to be called, if you're wondering, by the way, why do I type this character in every time, is because the shift is like this small and then this character. So I apologize. I'm pressing shift and that character is appearing every time. Onboarding forms. Fill out this form basically to, when you're coming on board. Okay. Onboarding forms right here. Yeah. So this is where I want to use that content type. I'll click on, I need to first say allow management of content types, then click on add. By the way, I'm in SharePoint Designer right now. Sorry, I forgot to mention that before. Within here, I want to use that content type, so I'm going to look for that. Here we go. Onboarding form, right? Automatically, InfoPath made this content type for me. So the onboarding form content type, I'm going to use that. Great. It's going to show a new menu. I want to make it a default as well. Perfect. Okay, so here's what this means, right? Let me navigate to this form library by clicking on this link over here. Opens up a new browser for me, takes me directly to onboarding forms library. Now, at this point in time, you may notice that none of my fields that were in the InfoPath form appear here. I'm using that content type, the new onboarding form content type here, but my fields are not visible. Doesn't mean they're not available, they're just not visible in this particular view. So I'll go to Library, Modify View, and just basically say, yeah, I do, I want to see this stuff, that's fine, but I also want to see account ID, department, display name, email, region, start date, all that stuff is good. Yeah? I think so. We'll see. Okay, so here's all my stuff right here, right? In order to make a new form here, my users will come and say, I want to make a new onboarding form. I should actually take this out altogether, but that's fine. You could, if you wanted to take this out, you could just go to SharePoint Designer. Once again, in content types, you can just say, don't show this on new menu, okay, by doing this right here. I'll just leave it for right now. Okay, let's go form templates here. I'm on the wrong one. Here we go. Okay, so onboarding forms, documents, either clicking on the new document or clicking on onboarding form, that's what a user is going to do when they come in and they'll see this form, right? Once again, forms services is required for this to happen. I'm sure many of you know that already. If you don't have form services, what's going to happen? It's not going to work at all? Or? Yes, it requires the InfoPath filler application. So we'll try to open that up automatically. If you don't have the InfoPath filler application, automatically, just like any other application that you don't have, it's going to say, hey, I can't find this application. You don't have it. You don't have access to this form, period. And you will not know what's happening. So of course, the user is going to come heading to you if you're the server administrator or whoever and say, hey, I don't have this thing. What's going on? And then you'll know that form services is either not configured properly or it's not installed at all. So form services is configured through central administration of SharePoint of your farm in case you have that issue. Notice over here that it automatically filled in my name. Great. That's what I wanted to do. For region, let's see if this is working fine. Midwest. Yes, it is. Awesome. Human resources for today's date. Can't change the date. That's great. For start date, I am going to make it in the past. Nope, can't make it in the past. It's got to be in the future. Perfect. Email address, I'll just type in gibberish and say whatever. Oh no, I can't do that. All right. So I'll type in a real fake address. Get it? Real fake. Come on, where's my at? Okay. This keyboard is driving me nuts. Seriously? Oh wow. Oh wow. You know, I did not realize before today that the UK keyboards are different than the American keyboards. Yeah. I'm going to take this over here and copy it. Yeah, whatever it takes. Okay. Anyway, so, well, you don't have a submit functionality here, so, you know, that's one problem, by the way, right? Because people always wonder now, I can save it, that's good, but is that what you want people to do? They'll click on save, they have to put in their file name and all that stuff. And that's when they're going to start overwriting their forms and we're going to have problems, right? And even after doing that, let's just say I'll put in whatever. The worst thing is when people go and then they stay in here, like, what happened? It didn't work. Save. It's not working, you know, you get a call. It's not working. Yeah, you just got to click on close because it doesn't close it for you automatically. Anyway, so we don't want to do all that stuff. We want to avoid that, of course. I'm sure many of you already know this thing that you go ahead and configure submit functionality, right? So I'm going to take this onboarding forms location, copy it. Onboarding forms, that's correct. Go back to InfoPath, team member onboarding, go to File, go to Submit Options. Allow users to submit this form, that is correct. Submitting it, many different ways you can do. SharePoint Document Library is the only one that does not require InfoPath filler. If you do email, if you do something else, that's going to require them having a filler. I will do SharePoint Document Library, that's what I want to submit it. Okay, add. Control V, that's the location, that's correct. Now, the form name, I'm going to use a concatenation value to create the form name automatically, or as I like to say it, automagically for the user. Like, what happened? How did I do that? Cool. The coolness factor does count for SharePoint, by the way. You know, SharePoint adoption, we all talk about that. When users see that coolness, they like it. That's one of the adoption caveats. Okay, concatenation. Double click to insert field. Sure, I'll take the display name of the person. And here I'm just going to put in a string value, so that's going to be, all right. Double click here to, I'll take the department here. All right. And generally what you would do is you use some kind of unique value, so then you have a unique form every time, but right now this is fine. Display name department, don't allow overwrite, next. And main submit, that's fine, finish, okay. And I'll just push this out by clicking on this quick publish button. Okay, so it quickly publishes it back to where it was originally published, just republishes the form. Now the way it does this thing, some of the stuff, because it's a little bit more advanced kind of a session here, it actually takes the form template from there first, and then it goes ahead and makes the changes and then pushes it back out. Okay, onboarding forms, refresh. And now you got the submit functionality right there. So I'll just go ahead and pick something, Midwest. Once again, this time I'll do research and development, sure. Today's date, start date. You gotta do that again, don't you? Did I close that already? I should leave that thing open for my @ sign. Here's my @ sign. Okay. Copy. All right. Once again, that's going to be Asif. Oh, what? That was weird. Okay. It wasn't working before. Okay. Save, submit. Yes. Automatically Asif Research and Development. And all the information is in there too, right? Account ID, that's just how it is. Display name is Asif in the user profile database. Email, region, start date, all that stuff got populated. Now I'm going to quiz you a little bit first over here before we go forward, and there's a lot more. Why would you want that stuff there? Why would you want the fields from the form in the columns of the library? Why does it matter? Filter, that's one. Sorting, of course, that's another. Creating views, that's another one. Grouping it, absolutely. What else? How about search? Extremely important, right? Searching matters, of course. Search is what really breaks or makes a real SharePoint deployment, to be honest, many times. When if people cannot find it, they just don't come back. So that's another thing, searching. What else?
You can work through the list, you can't open the form.
You can look at the stuff and you will know, you get a bird's eye view basically of what's inside the form instead of opening the form, is what you're saying basically. What else? Export it. You can export the data to other sources, whatever it might be. What else? One more? How about workflows? Right? Because now it's part of the library, you can go ahead and use this information in the workflow, which is what we're going to be doing as well. So there's many different reasons, of course, you would want to display the columns. Now, you don't have to really display it. You just have to make it available. You can change the views, make new views to not display, for example, the account ID. You don't really need that if you don't need it. In any case, so good to have that stuff, right? I think my PowerPoint is feeling lonely, so I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint a little bit. And what time is it, by the way? Because I want to pace myself properly. We do have 2 sessions today. Let's see.